Hey everyone, welcome to Interviews with Integrity. I'm Leo with Integrity Dream Home powered by eXp Realty, and I'm so excited for the guest that I have today. We're going through a series right now of walking everyone through the important steps of home ownership. That first step is getting pre-approved. And so our first interview we kicked off earlier this month. We interviewed Kelly and got you guys a market update on where the rates are at in the market and kind of just some mindsets to have in the current market. Today we're going to be talking with Reuben, who is with Structure Tech Home Inspections, and that's usually the next part of the process. When you're home shopping, you get your pre-approval, you go home shopping, you get your offer accepted, and then from there, you have an opportunity to structure a inspection into the transaction. And so I've got one of the best in the Twin Cities, you guys, with almost 2,400 five-star Google reviews, just a phenomenal reputation in the community. I've certainly enjoyed partnering with them and refer all my clients to them because they do such a thorough job. And so I'm going to be interviewing Reuben with Structure Tech Home Inspections today, and it's going to be awesome. I'm going to bring Reuben in and give him a moment to introduce himself. And please welcome my special guest, Reuben.
Hey, how's it going, Leo? Good to see you, man.
You too. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about Structure Tech, and kind of bring us up to date with you and where you're at.
Well, I am a second generation home inspector. My dad was a contractor. I grew up swinging a hammer from the age of about 6. I mean, my entire life has been centered around houses, figuring out how to remodel them, how they work, all that. That's kind of been my passion my whole life. And my dad was a home inspector from about 1990 on. He purchased Structure Tech in 97. And that's when I came on board. And at the time, I'd answer phones, I'd schedule home inspections, I'd write reports for the guys. I wouldn't actually do home inspections. But then I started doing inspections myself around 2004. And then eventually my son was born, and I realized I want to grow this business. I want to have more personal time freedom. And that's where we started becoming intentional about growing. Yeah. And we've grown a lot since then. And now I don't do home inspections myself personally anymore. I do a lot of this, what we're doing right now. It's a lot more of just trying to promote the business and trying to lead others on my team. Yeah. And we've grown now. We're probably one of the largest probably the largest home inspection company in the Midwest now. Yeah. We've got a lot of home inspectors on our team.
Yeah. How many home inspectors do you have?
We're up to about 20 now. Okay. It might be 19. It's a moving number, but absolutely. Yeah, we got a lot of people on the team.
Okay. And like for some of your veteran inspectors, how many inspections are they going on in a day?
No more than 2. That is absolutely our maximum. Okay. It's a lot of them will only do 1 inspection a day, maybe 2, but more than that, that is too long of a day. We schedule at least a 4-hour block to be at the house, a lot of times more. And then there's drive time. And then once they leave the house, they're not done. So, I mean, just the idea of doing 3 in a day is just mind boggling to me. I don't know how anybody could do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it definitely attests to the quality of service that you guys provide. Sometimes less is best to just deliver a better product to our customers. So
yeah,
thank you for giving us that insight. I'm going to just jump right in, if that's okay, and go through our series of questions here. I've got a few questions for you that I want to ask you. And then at the end, we're going to do a Q&A. And so we're going to let anyone who's tuning in ask us some questions, and we'll spend a few minutes on that before we wrap things up. And so fun. Awesome. Jumping right in. So, again, my desire is to educate our audience and, give them the insights on, this part of the process with the home inspections. A lot of us, we might not be handyman, in nature, right? We don't necessarily have that eye like you folks do. And so if you were to advise them, walking into a home and some of the things that they can initially look at, just walking in, something they can keep an eye out for. So let me clarify that. What are the biggest items to inspect in a home in that initial walkthrough?
Sure. I'd say it all starts out with water management. There is a 1 hour class that we have made. It's that we teach to real estate agents,
Yeah.
but this is such an important class that we made it free to anybody. I sat right here at my desk, recorded this entire class. It is basically all photos and me talking you through what to look at from a 10,000-foot view of where does all the water go on your home? Which houses do you need to be concerned about? I mean, that is answers 1, 2, and 3 to your question, Leo. Is figure out where all the water goes and know which houses are going to be problematic. And I can do that once you take this 1 hour class. And I'm not selling anything here. The class is free.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we can put a link to it in the show notes or something. But it's a free class and it teaches you which houses are going to be problematic. So that's the most important, is figure out where the water is going. And we don't have time to dig into it. That's why I'm saying watch my 1 hour class on it. But after that, I'd say look at the roof. If there's any way you can, look at the condition of the shingles. I mean, you really need to get a home inspector on the roof to fully evaluate the condition of the roof. But there are so many homes where if somebody were to simply take the time, don't just walk up to the front door, look at the front door, take the time when you pull up to the house, look at the roof. What do the shingles look like? I mean, subtle defects you can't find from the ground, but if you've got shingles that are curled, shingles that are missing, shingles that don't match, these are all things you can easily see from the ground. And don't forget to take the time to walk around the entire home, walk around it from a distance with intentionality, thinking about what does the roof look like. I mean, I remember there was a home in St. Paul where the houses were so close to each other, you couldn't see the roof at all. But if you take the time to walk down the alley and you go down about 4 houses, eventually you can get the angle right where you can see the roof. And there was a section like 5 by 5 with no shingles at all. They had all blown off it. And I'm there doing the home inspection. I don't need to tell them this. I mean, anybody can see this if they had simply taken the time to just go down the alley and look. So I'm encouraging everybody, take the macro look at your house and look at the angles. I mean, look at the roof lines. Is everything flat? Is it plumb? Is it level? This is all stuff you don't need to have a super trained eye to spot this stuff. You just need to look at the house with intentionality.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great.
Roof and water management. Those are my 2 on the outside. I don't know how much time you want me to spend on this. I mean, if we got the next 3 hours, I could keep going.
Sure. Give us something on the inside, like inside walking through real quick.
Inside, I'd say some easy stuff to do is look at the appliances and figure out the age of them. I've got another separate blog post on my website along with a video teaching you how to quickly and easily identify the age of appliances. Because if your appliances are super old, that's something that you're going to be probably having to take care of once you take possession of the house at some point. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that it's a bad house, doesn't mean the appliances are bad appliances. It just means they're at that point in their life cycle. And it's something that's easy to know about if you simply take the time to look at it. And you can't always tell the age of appliance just at a glance. Sometimes it's a matter of looking carefully, seeing a serial number, and then having the secret decoder on your mobile phone or something, punch in a serial number and it'll kick back an age. So that's an easy thing people can do. And then, of course, I'm going to say, take a look in the basement and look for any signs of basement water intrusion. That's one of the biggest concerns that people have if they're buying a house. Whether it's a finished or unfinished basement, people are pretty freaked out about basement water intrusion, and it usually ends up leading to mold, which is another thing people are super freaked out about. So take the time to look for any signs of basement water intrusion. Look at the corners of the basement and, feel around. Is there any wet spots in any carpet? That's another big one that you can do before you even get the home inspection.
Awesome. Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you so much for all your valuable insights with that. And, and it's a similar question. My next question I wanted to pose, what are some items that people don't think about that you would recommend they inspect? So let's say I come in and I think about the roof and I think about the water and I think about the appliances. What's something just kind of outside the box that you could get people to think about while they're there on the property?
Sure. Well, here's one. There are home inspection standards of practice where just about every home inspector you hire is going to have a standard list of stuff that they have to be looking at. So, of course, if you get the full home inspection, they're going to look at I shouldn't say all, most of the most important stuff that's covered by standards of practice. But to your question, what else is there? You're saying, like, what other services would you want to hire?
Mm-hmm.
Number one is definitely a sewer inspection. That is not included in a home inspection, and it is critically important you have every sewer inspected. Now, back in the day, I used to tell people if I'd see big trees in the front yard, I'd say, you may want to think about getting a sewer inspection because you could have roots getting into that drain line.
Mm-hmm.
But then over time, I started realizing if it's old, it's a good idea to get that sewer inspected. And then as I learned more, we learn more and more as time goes along. I started realizing that it doesn't matter if it's old or not. There are a lot of problems with even brand new sewer systems where they didn't backfill it right. They didn't support it right when it was being put together. And we've seen dozens of less than 10-year-old PVC drains, broken, collapsed, bellied. I mean, you name it. At this point, I personally wouldn't consider buying a home without hiring a sewer inspector to come in and do that camera inspection of the sewer. Because if something goes wrong there, I mean, you're probably looking at like a $10,000 fix. And yeah. I'm making an estimate. Maybe it's 20, maybe it's 7, but it's a good average.
Yeah.
So sewer inspections are huge.
We recently had some clients that opted to get that sewer inspection as well. Just being smart and proactive about that. You don't want to run into some situations in the future where you got that big expense, because you definitely got to factor that into the equation. So I think that's absolutely smart. I'm going to throw a curveball your way. So many times, just something you said kind of had me thinking about it. So many times in this market, even to compete in multiple offer situation, we've got a lot of folks waiving the inspection, right? Yeah. I've got clients that waive the inspection. It's a way to stand out when you got 5 offers. If 3 of them have inspection and 2 of them don't, while your offer is standing out, never something I would recommend my clients do. But is there anything that you would like to speak to in regards to folks that waive that inspection, and just something that you would maybe challenge them to think about, or just maybe a few additional items that you would ask them to look at in that initial walkthrough? You did a fantastic job answering my questions thus far, but like, what would you look for? I guess maybe I'm just trying to push it a little bit further with you.
Well, here's my advice. If you know you're going to waive the inspection, and I'll do all I can to try to talk you out of it, but if you know you're going to do it, no matter what Leo or Reuben tells you, there is something we offer called a walkthrough consultation. It's where we go through during a showing, and we are the experts, and we'll go through for a half hour, whatever that showing is, and point out all the stuff that we see from a trained eye: the water management, the roof, the electrical panel. Hey, did you know this house has aluminum wiring? This is a big deal. And there is an incredible amount of information that a trained eye can find in that half hour. And it's not a lot of money for this. And we love doing them. We'll do these all day for people, and we can get these done on short notice. I mean, a lot of the time it's like, hey, we got a showing later this afternoon. Can you guys come along? Yep, we will be there. So it's specifically tailored for that. So if you know you're not going to get an inspection, at least get a walkthrough consultation. You got time for a 30-second story about that?
I do.
All
Absolutely.
right. There's one we did. I wrote a blog on this. There was a house where we did a walkthrough consultation. There was multiple offers on this. They're all offers without a home inspection. We're walking through with the buyer. We go down in the basement. It's like one of these dugout basements. It's not even a full basement. It's like just a dirt hole where they got the furnace and the water heater. It's got a crawl space under the whole house. We had to clear out with our arm. We had to clear out like 10 years worth of cobwebs to get at this crawl space access to look in there to find a foundation that is completely crumbling apart and falling into the crawl space. Joists are saturated and rotted and crumbly. They're falling apart where they run into the foundation. I mean, this house has major, major structural problems, and there's no inspection contingencies on any of these offers. And we were able to quickly identify this in a 30-minute walkthrough consultation. And the buyer said, there's no way we're making an offer on this. Let's go home now. We're done.
Absolutely.
And it cost them, I think we charged $200 or something for one of these.
Okay.
If that isn't the best testament I can think of about getting a walkthrough consultation, I don't know what there is.
Absolutely. Well, there's a tremendous value in that. I mean, $200 to save them tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And if it's okay, I got to throw out a couple other ideas. Just because you're buying a home that's not contingent upon a home inspection doesn't mean you can't have a home inspection. Mm-hmm. You can still get a home inspection between the time that you made the offer and the time of closing. You just don't have the luxury of making any negotiations over it. But I've heard of people who have said, we found issues so big that we just decided we're going to forego our earnest money and we're backing out of the deal anyway.
Yeah.
And then there's also something called a post-close inspection where, I mean, just because you didn't have it inspected, the whole purpose of a home inspection is not to simply negotiate on price. It's to learn what you're getting.
Yeah.
And we've got this new product called Pay at Close, where people can get the home inspection and roll the cost of the inspection into their closing costs. We can even perform an inspection after the closing and roll that into the closing costs.
Wow.
So there's really no reason to not get it.
Yeah. And at the very least to know what you're getting, what you're taking possession of.
Yes.
Taking that.
Yes. And to prioritize stuff, because there's stuff. Every house has stuff. But what is it and what's the most important and what's going to cost you the most money in the long run if you don't deal with it now? So much value in just knowing that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. I love your stories. Any more stories you got for us? We love stories, especially when it comes to inspections. I follow your Facebook page and I see all the funny highlights of like, no, this is not a good situation, and I even see you point out like this is a very good job done, so I love following your page and kind of seeing the different activity you guys get into. So I'm all open ears with all your stories. So
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Very fascinating. Jump into our next question. And I think this is a very good question that a lot of people just, they aren't in the loop, or they just don't know, quite frankly. And that would be, would you get an inspection on a new construction, and why? It's a brand new house. It was just built, just finished it last month, and it's ready for me to move in. Why would I need to get a home inspection on that?
Yeah. And you know what? I'll tell you, Leo, that's another class that we made available for free. It's one of our 1-hour classes, and it's available to the public. We put it on our YouTube channel. It's a 1-hour class for real estate agents explaining the importance of getting new construction houses inspected. And basically, it is just horror photo after horror photo of houses that have been fully inspected and approved by the city. This has gone through the entire process. And for most of them, you probably don't even need to be a home inspector to recognize the defects. And I'm talking about attics that have zero insulation in them. Nobody ever went up in there. Leo, did you know there's no such thing as an attic insulation inspection? On a new construction house, there is no such thing.
That's insane.
I agree. You know what the building officials rely on? A certificate from the insulation contractor that says what they did.
Wow.
I mean, just process that for a second. They say, "Here's what I did," and the building official says, "Okay, that's what you did,"
Yeah.
and nobody goes up there. So, I mean, I'd
Wow.
say maybe 30 to 40% of the new homes that we look at don't have as much insulation as they're supposed to. The attic alone is a huge one. I mean, we find broken trusses, disconnected bathroom exhaust fans, frost in the attic, warm air leaking up into the attic in the middle of winter. I mean, so many things just in the attic alone. But then there's everything else. I've found many roofs installed where they didn't fasten the shingles properly. They had the pressure set too high on their nail guns. The nails all punched through the shingles. And you know what the fix was on that?
Hmm.
It was tear the entire roof off and start over. I've got photos proving it.
Wow.
I've seen that happen many times. And why? Because cities don't walk roofs. They don't check nailing patterns. I mean, when you have the city come out to do their inspection, and this is not a knock against building officials, I have the utmost respect for them.
Yeah.
I couldn't do the job that they do. I'm not trained to do that, but they have a lot of houses to go to. I mean, they might be going to 10, 15 houses in a day. They don't have 4 hours like we do to go through with a fine tooth comb and do all this stuff. That's what a home inspector does.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just getting started. Like I said, I mean, I got a 1 hour class. I got a 2 hour version of this class I teach to other home inspectors. I could take up all your day with this information, Leo, but that there is a lot of value in getting a new construction inspection done. And I'll tell you, our promise to our clients, if you get any type of inspection from us and you don't feel it was worth every penny, you don't have to pay us.
Wow.
So it's pretty risk-free.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. I love that. I just love that you're so honoring with that, and you just have such a belief in it. Something you mentioned, and by the way, for any of my realtor friends tuning in, I've got a network of realtors that I partner with. There are some continuing education classes that are available through Structured Tech for home inspections, even to just help empower us realtors as we're doing a walkthrough and kind of help, give us some of that knowledge as well. And you can actually get credit for it, for your continuing education. As realtors, we have to get so many hours in a year to maintain our license. And so I've been fortunate enough to take those classes. I just want to encourage anyone else out there to hit up Structured Tech for some of those classes. They're a phenomenal resource. And I've certainly appreciated you being a resource of mine, Reuben. So one thing I was thinking of, going off script a little bit here, is being a homeowner for 4 years now, there are things that come up. That's part of home ownership, right? Like, just, I got to fix this, I got to fix that. Sometimes it feels never ending. But would you recommend someone, because I've considered, even 4 years after home ownership, getting another inspection done just to check out what is the current status of my home, what is the current condition of my home? Do you ever have anybody who just utilize your service for something like that?
Yeah, I've done a ton of those, and it's called a property maintenance inspection. And it's almost identical to a home inspection. The biggest difference there is we don't test appliances for those, because if you're living in a house, you know way more about the little idiosyncrasies of every one of your appliances that I could possibly figure it out in the short time I'm there. So we don't check appliances, but it's just about everything else we do for a home inspection. And sometimes we might get a little bit more intrusive, because you might say, you know what, I'm really curious. So we got this thing going on here. And we say, well, the only way you could do that is if you open up the wall. And then you're like, well, I'll open up the wall. Let's take a look. So every once in a while, we get to get a little bit more fun, little more creative on a property maintenance inspection. But yeah, there's absolutely a product for that. And, usually the people who have us do those, they have us come in around the 5-year mark or so, after they've been in the house for about 5 years. Yet there's other people who want a quick and dirty maintenance inspection just to know that they're doing everything right. And it's where we've been out there within the last year or two. And that's more like a 30 to 60-minute inspection. So we have different inspections for every concern level.
Wow. Love the options. and people love options. You've got everything from home inspection to walkthrough services to even 5 years down the line to go in and help people evaluate what condition their home is in. That's phenomenal. And I am thoroughly impressed. That is awesome. We're going to go to a Q&A now as time is dwindling down here, and just to see if there are any questions out there from any of our audience. Otherwise, we can also, if you have a unique, something like maybe one of your most favorite inspections that you can recall, maybe a favorite client that you worked with, we can give the audience a chance to ask some questions now. And in the meantime, if you want to just share a favorite story of yours, go ahead. Let's see. Well, if you want to go ahead and share a story just while we got you for a few more minutes.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Sorry. I wasn't sure if you're talking to anybody watching or what.
Yeah.
All right. Another story. I'll tell you one about a new construction. This is one where we were doing a 11-month warranty inspection. And I'll tell you, we love 11-month warranty inspections. These are typically done for people who have bought a new construction house. They've lived in it for a while, and then they start to regret not having had a home inspection when they bought it.
Sure.
They start to notice this is wrong, that's wrong, what else is wrong? So we come out and we do those inspections before the builder's 1-year warranty is up. So that, we somewhere around month 11 in home ownership, that's usually when we do it. And we love those a ton because usually once we get out to one house, there's usually a pretty good repair list that the builder needs to come out and take care of. We can't force them to do anything, but usually they see what we come up with. And if they have any integrity, they're going to go, yep, that's right. We'll come take care of it. We'll go add the rest of the insulation that we missed, whatever else. And then we end up going around and we do whole neighborhoods because you know what neighbors do? Mm-hmm. They talk. and when one has the builder coming out, everybody else wants to know, why is the builder here? So we do a lot of those 11-month warranty inspections. There was one neighborhood we were kind of going around. We're doing this house, that house. Mm-hmm. And this woman had me out, and she was retired. She was living alone, and she noticed she was having all these frost problems throughout the winter, way more frost around the doors and windows than she thought she should be getting. And she felt like the air was constantly stuffy in her house. And that's one of those things where it's like, the builder looks at her kind of sideways, like, okay, you're a hypochondriac. We get it. The air is fine, honey. They were very condescending. And she said, well, maybe, you put in this air exchanger. I don't think it's installed right. I think there's a problem. And they sent their HVAC contractor out. They walked her around the outside and said, you see that? That's your exhaust. They talked way down to her, made her feel like she was crazy. Oh. And she ended up hiring us to do this 11-month warranty inspection. And this is when I was still doing inspections. It took me about 5 minutes of looking at all these clues and looking at her air exchanger to figure out, oh no, there's definitely a problem with this. Turns out that they never installed the exhaust for the air exchanger. It was exhausting back into the house. So it's pulling in outdoor air. It's pressurizing the entire house, and it's making air want to leave at all these places where it shouldn't. And it's not changing out the air the way it should. So we've got mold problems. We've got indoor air quality problems. This has been going on since she moved into the house, and she's called the builder many times about this. And they've told her, absolutely not. This is perfectly fine. And this is something that absolutely would have been caught during any one of our new construction inspections, because it's just standard procedure for us to turn on those air exchangers, check the air coming in, check the air coming out, make sure it's working the way it should. So, that's one of my best stories. It's one of the last inspections that I ever did when I was still out in the field. So it still feels fresh in my mind. Yeah. And it was new construction.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Awesome.
there's value in every one of those.
That's awesome, and I certainly appreciate just the thoroughness that you guys go through, just inspectors generally speaking, and hopefully every company does this, but man, just the thoroughness of going deep like that, right? Like even as we begin our conversation, we talk about some of the things we can look for, but I think that's so cool, and the reports that we get back are so impressive. And we actually have a question in the comments here that I think that you could help us answer about. Let's see here. Let's bring it up. What are the last steps of a home inspection? Usually, I would say probably delivering that report. And so, what are some of the last steps that you guys do just as part of your service?
I'm not sure what level we're talking about for that question. So I'll try to answer a few of them. Hopefully I'll cover whichever one you're asking about, Scott. One of them is for the actual physical process. The last thing is we've got a checklist of things that we go through. Every one of our inspectors has to make sure that we're putting the house back in exactly the same condition that we found it. Put the thermostat back, make sure all the shades are back where they were, lights off, doors locked, all of that fun stuff. The whole goal with every inspection is to make sure nobody ever knows you were there except for your business card sitting on the counter. Like that's the only evidence you were there. So leave the house the way you found it.
Yeah.
As far as communication and process, one of the last steps is to have a talk with our clients. I mean, we always want our clients there for at least the last hour of the inspection, where we spend that last hour simply going over what we found. We'll walk the clients around the house, we'll show them stuff, we'll explain it all and make sure they understand it. And then maybe especially the last step might be to send over the inspection report. And those get sent out either the same day or really early the next morning with all that information. It's all documented, and then being available for questions afterward.
Yeah. And you guys are really good about that too. I love that. I always get a phone call like after the fact of someone just, hey, how did it go? Do you guys have any questions? And just that follow-up is just amazing. I mean,
Thank you.
It's different. Yeah. From any company we've worked with. And that's just furthers our relationship and why we continue to choose you as our primary, because I'm like, man, they're calling me a day or two or three afterwards, just, wanting to make sure that people were taken care of. So
yeah, it's more time invested initially for us. I mean, obviously it takes time for us to make phone calls to every one of our clients, but if there's any of my competitors listening, I'm sharing my secrets here. We found it actually saves us time in the long run. It's like I said, it's an investment of time. It's not giving away time. It's that important to make sure that our clients have all of their questions answered.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much, Reuben, for taking the time. I'm not a home inspector. I respect you as an inspector. That is your profession, and totally lean on you for just diving deep in that for my clients. And so I appreciate you taking the time to jump on and answer these questions that, a lot of people wonder about, and they're very good questions. And so thank you so much. Thank you to anyone who's tuned in. And this will be recorded, so it'll be posted. Anyone that is watching the recording, thank you so much for tuning into that as well. If you have any questions about home ownership, please give me a call. Reuben with Structure Tech is your go-to for all home inspection needs. That is who we partner with. Thank you so much for watching. And our next interview, as we're walking people through the process of home ownership, starting with the loan, getting pre-approved. We interviewed Kelly as our first interview. This is our second interview, only our second interview. We're new at this, so bear with us as we're getting into this, everyone. Second interview with Reuben and the inspection aspect of it. And next interview we're going to be doing in this series is with Michael Norman with Edgewater title company. And so a lot of times when we get to that last step in the process of getting our clients connected to a title company, what is a title company? Who are they? What do they do? Where is that at? And so I just want to educate my audience as much as possible with each step of the process. We'll probably swing back around and do some more interviews. So I certainly hope to have you back, Reuben. Really appreciate you taking the time, and we'll catch you all later. Thank you so much for tuning in.